A lot of people are unaware of what Jesus had to go through. Sunland Apple IPTV voiceover IP Salton Pictures Studios perfected faces done by Candy the Best Prayer Warrior and makeup artist July 18, 2024. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him, so he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?"
Did the Council of Nicaea created the Trinity? The Trinity was thought by the early church fathers way before the Council of Nicaea took place in 325 AD. After Constantine legalized Christianity and allowed its practice, a guy named Arius started preaching that Jesus is not God. In 321 AD, a local council declared Arius a heretic. Arius moved to Palestine. A debate between him and Alexander of Alexandria became intense. This caught the attention of Emperor Constantine. He then called the council to meet in 325 AD. Constantine didn't want any division in the empire. He wanted Christians to come into agreement and to be unity in the church. The purpose of the council was to create unity and avoid division in the empire by agreeing on the divinity of Christ, not to create the Trinity.
Did you know in the early years of the Christian church there was a question mark over the divinity of Jesus Christ? This was a crisis in the early days of the Christian church, and so Constantine I, the first Christian Roman emperor, held a council called the Council of Nicaea to try and resolve the crisis. A lot of you would have heard of the Council of Nicaea, as it was part of the story of the book and the film The Da Vinci Code. On one side, you had the Trinitarianisms. Oh, I think I've said that wrong. That's basically people that believed in the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But more importantly, that Jesus was God. They're one and the same. And on the other side, you had Arianism, which believed that Jesus wasn't divine. He was a created being. He was born, and so he had a beginning. Unlike God, who never had a beginning, God had always been there. And so in 325 AD, Constantine I brought together 318 bishops across Europe to try and resolve this crisis. By the end of the council, the Nicene Creed was established. The Nicene Creed established that Jesus was one with the Father. Jesus Christ was divine. 316 of the 318 bishops agreed with this new doctrine, with 2 disagreeing. At this council, they also tried to establish the correct date for Easter, but they couldn't agree on a date. As I stated at the start of the video, the book The Da Vinci Code mentions the Council of Nicaea, but it states that it was a lot more debated at the council than just the divinity of Jesus Christ. Even though the Nicene Creed was established, it didn't really work. The crisis wasn't really resolved. Arianism still flourished within the Christian church for quite a few years after the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Did you find that interesting? Do you have anything to say about the Council of Nicaea? If you do, then let's discuss it in the comments below.
A lot of people don't realize that Yeshua, at the age of 12, aka Jesus, of what he's known in modern times, at the age of 12, he disappeared, like you said, disappeared from the Bible completely. Well, where was he? He went to Egypt. And the proof of this is Coptic Cairo. In Coptic Cairo, the house that he lived in is still there. It's now a Coptic church. The bed, everything is still there. It's a shrine now. This person was real. It wasn't a fairy tale. He actually did exist. He was there with his mom, actually, for some time. And what did he go there for? He went to study and learn the Egyptian mysteries. He was an adept initiate into the Egyptian mysteries. Then he traveled to Tibet to learn Reiki healing, Qigong, healing with his hands. That was confirmed by the Dalai Lama. Then he went down into India, where he learned the mystic arts, teaching reincarnation all the way back. And you can find evidence of this in a little-known scripture named the Gospel of the Holy 12, which is omitted from the Bible. You realize that he went to go learn the devil's work, Egyptian mysteries, which was really the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean. So anywhere in the New Testament where you see Jesus speaking or quoted as saying something, in my book, I have the Thoth's words from the Emerald Tablets and Jesus' words side by side, where you can see he's saying the same thing that Thoth was saying 36,000 years.
The book of Revelation was written to bring comfort to first century followers of Jesus and exhort them to faithfulness in the face of persecution. It is not a prophecy about today, and it can cause significant harm when we misunderstand it as a prophecy about today. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. The fit for this video is a mystery. And the book of Revelation makes use of first century apocalyptic themes and imagery in order to comfort followers of Jesus, that God was working behind the scenes and would ultimately bring them victory, help them overcome their enemy, the much larger and oppressive Roman Empire. It also exhorts followers of Jesus to faithfulness in the face of persecution from that larger oppressive Roman Empire. It is not a prophecy about today, but when we misunderstand it as such, it requires us to find a place for ourselves in the narrative. Now, in that narrative, followers of Jesus were minoritized, marginalized, and oppressed groups, and they were under the boot of the much larger Roman Empire. Shortly after the book of Revelation was written, Christianity took over the Roman Empire, and many Christians ever since have lived in social and political circumstances where they exercised outsized influence and where they were on the privileged end of systemic power asymmetries. And that's particularly true of the United States today. But a part of finding ourselves in the narrative, understanding today as the fulfillment of the prophecies of the book of Revelation, requires that we find someone for the role of the larger oppressive empire that represents Satan. It requires that we find an oppressor for ourselves, which means we have to go out in search of somebody who is the social and the political other, whom we can cast as the demonized, satanic enemy of God. And far too often that means groups like Iran and Russia and China, or the Palestinians, including immigrants to the United States from those areas, including members of the LGBTQ+ community, including people who are trying to use new technology, including all kinds of different groups, many of whom are on the losing end of the systemic power asymmetries that so many Christians benefit from. So when you see people in positions of privilege and power trying to identify other groups as God's enemy, as the tools of Satan, as demonic forces, keep in mind what kind of damage that can cause just because we misunderstand what this book is about. And understanding it as a prophecy about today requires that we find someone to be the enemy.
This is the great secret that everyone knows except us in the West. Almost any other culture that we go to, from the monasteries in Egypt and Tibet and India into Bolivia and Peru, the indigenous traditions, little villages in the Andes Mountains, they all know that there is this experience that we can have inside of our bodies that affects our world in some way, and our science simply has not allowed for that historically. So I began to go to these places. I began to go into the monasteries, all the places that I mentioned. And what we begin to understand is that this is the place where science got it wrong. There are two places, two assumptions. First one is that the space we believe is empty is not really so empty. It's full of a living essence, of a living material that we're only beginning to understand, number one. And number two, the fact, and it is a fact now, that we may have experiences inside of our bodies that influence the world beyond our bodies through the conduit of what's in this space. So it was in going into the monasteries and the nunneries and speaking with the indigenous people, looking at them eye to eye, heart to heart, God to God, and I could say to these people, when you just performed that miracle, when you just performed that miraculous healing, what is it that you did inside of your body to make that happen? And if I didn't understand what they told me, I'd ask them again and again and again through the translators until I understood that they were creating an experience, producing an effect inside of their bodies that my science never told me was possible or existed. And so it was that path that allowed me to flesh out the missing pieces that we're only beginning to understand today, marrying the best science of our time with the wisdom, 5,000 years of wisdom of our past, into a greater understanding. And that understanding, it brings us back to where we're only now beginning to understand that there is something that we can do in our lives that influence not only the physical body, ours and those of other people around us, but literally influence the physical reality of our world, and that changes everything. It changes everything. that we in the West believe about ourselves. So as a scientist, I've also come to understand this is a very different way for many people to think about themselves and their world. And this is not something that people typically talk about in a technical organization. They don't wake up in the morning and say, what kinds of feelings, what kinds of dreams, what kinds of healings did you have over the weekend? And they're talking about who won the football game and who won the lotteries. This is where it brings us the relevance in our lives, because we all are having experiences every day, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. Those experiences are physically affecting our bodies and our world.
The truth is hidden in plain sight, and this is how they hide everything. If you are looking for the knowledge that has been hidden from us, that explains how actually powerful you are, if you want to know what you are and where you are, this ebook will literally unveil that for you. And ye shall know the truth, and truth shall set you free.
Looked in the mirror lately, wish you could trade eyes with me, cause there's complexities in complexion, but your skin is glow like diamonds. Dig me like the earth, you be giving birth to everything alive, baby, know your worth. I love everything about you, from your nappy curls to every single curve, your body natural. Same skin that was broken, be the same skin taking over. Most things out of focus view, but when you're in the room, they notice you. Cause you're beautiful. Yeah, you're beautiful. Them and them gon' fall in love with you in all of your glory. Your skin is not only dark, it shines and it tells your story. You dance and they can't control you. They watching